So, I'm 7 years old, moving to this neighborhood, and we have these two big plots of land right behind our house that eventually now are developed and have houses on them. But back then it was just open. And so my dad is like, "You're into biking? Let's go start stacking some dirt with shovels out there." And it grew from like, stacking with shovels to like finding neighborhood construction sites that were building houses and digging foundations and being like, "Hey, you can drop your dirt right here instead of having to drive it out of town. So save yourself some money and, drop us some piles." And, that evolved to an even greater extent where we've got this full backyard set of like 3 different jump lines and a pump track, and people are traveling in from out of state to come ride it. And the, neighborhood road is getting clogged with too many cars parked on the side. And, the city eventually ends up sanctioning it as a city bike park for a couple of years.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
and,
that.
putting up signage and whatnot. And it was just a really fun space to share with my dad and my friends. And it kind of felt like somewhere that, anybody was welcome to just like come and hang out.
It was so cool. I made my way down. My dad got me a BMX bike, the red line.
The red line.
We talked about. He had a red line.
Matching red lines.
It was so awesome. But I came down and I remembered there were guys, and I was just a kid, but I feel like at that time there were already guys like 14, 15, to me they seemed big.
Oh yeah, they were. I mean, my best friend to this day is a guy who I met when I was 8 years old in my backyard, and he was 16, So there was like all kinds of older riders that you're just like around and hanging out with.
It was sweet. And they were getting so much air. Man, they were doing all kinds of, it's like stuff you'd see if you go into like a Red Bull race. In my opinion, that's how it felt.
That is how it felt.
I couldn't believe it was just down at like the end of the road.
Right.
Super cool. So tell me about the bike, man. What does a bike mean to you?
I think it's been a form of self-expression together with the shovel, because, with dirt, you just have the ability to kind of imagine whatever you want and shape it up and pack it in and ride it. And then you modify things and tweak it here and get an input from the friends. And I feel like it's given me like a space to be creative and like figure out what I like, and also have to put in a lot of work physically to make these dreams like become reality. And I think that it taught me a lot of lessons as a kid about just like working hard. As funny as it sounds, like you wouldn't think biking and building jumps was really that important. But, for me as like a 10-year-old kid, I think I learned more about that, or learned more about hard work from that than school, for example. Like, at school, I was working hard. I was a 4.0 student through all of it. But it was always because I wanted to get the work done as fast as I could so I could go ride bikes.
So sweet. I love that, man. I think you were like a Sterling Scholar or something, were you?
Yeah, I was like top 10 at Lone Peak, whatever that, was labeled. I can't remember.
Yeah, but you're smart dude.
Thanks.
Smart dude. So obviously you take all of your skills and your smart brain and you studied and you did engineering.
Mm.
So tell me about that path of engineering and how that worked out for you.
Yeah, I always thought I was going to go into med school because one of my good buddies was like very into it. My dad always talked about, "Oh, you're going to be Dr. Pepper. You're going to be Dr. Pepper."
Oh yeah.
And so it was a fun idea, and I was like financially motivated by the idea as well. But when I got into college and started taking pre-medicine, track courses, I felt like this doesn't feel fulfilling to me. And so I fell into engineering because I liked the idea of working with my hands, which, probably came from all the building and like wood ramp construction and stuff that I did as a kid, and tinkering on bikes, I think, as well. And that, I guess, took me through college, got my undergrad. I did some really cool internships I worked at Tesla for a year as an engineer there. I worked for a local carbon fiber, wheel company called Envy here in Utah. And then I got hired out of college as a test engineer for Yeti Cycles, building like test rigs and like protocol for fatigue testing and things like that for carbon fiber frames, which all sounds like the dream job for somebody who loves bikes, right? And I worked in that for a few years, and at the same time, on the side, I was riding my bike, all the time and making videos about it, just like I had from childhood. And social media started to become this side interest of mine where I'm making videos and starting to build a page, and like more and more people are seeing my stuff and following. And so, I'm working an engineering job, but also creating content. And, then I had this big moment where I lost my job at the engineering, my engineering job at the bike company, which felt like such a punch in the gut because we had just adopted our first child. We were on the brink of adopting our second child, and it's pretty expensive. So to be about to spend a bunch more to, get all of these cogs to turn to be able to adopt our daughter, it was going to take quite a bit of funds, and to lose my job, I'm this is terrible. And but I, was in a position where my social media was starting to open up opportunities, and I chose like, hey, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to go full time into content creation, and the rest is history, I guess.
That's amazing, man. So you hit this real critical point where you're trying to adopt, you've lost your job, and like, what did that feel like in that moment? Because did you know right away you're going to get into content creation, or?
No, I mean, so I'm working my engineering job, and a company who actually was birthed down the street from you here, if you know, like Bryce and Blake. I can't remember their last name, but they started the Velocirax bike rack company.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
They were literally, I think, a street down from you. And they saw what I was doing on my own social media channel, and they're like, "Hey, we're from Alpine. We, are building a bike rack company. Would you be interested in like giving us some tips, helping out with our social media? Because we only have, 300 followers. We're trying to build a company." And I'm like, "All right." And so I grew them to, 10,000 followers in the first 12 months. And I started to realize I'm actually able to reproduce what I'm doing on my own channel on behalf of brands and like help them do it. And I'm getting paid more per unit of time to do that than I am for my engineering job, even though it's just like a side hustle, after hours. And so that kind of seemed like a safety net. So when I lost my engineering job, I'm like, well, if I'm making more, per hour doing this, why don't I just give it a shot?
That is so, so sweet. So it kind of all came together. How long, after you'd lost your job and you're trying to figure out what to do, how long before that opportunity came with the bike racks? And they're doing their media?
I was actually working that job before I lost my like full-time career. So
Sweet.
I had been working that job for probably 4 to 6 months when I lost my engineering job.
Wow. That's awesome. So do you feel, what was the identity shift like for you? Was it hard to let go of, quote unquote, being an engineer and becoming this content guy, or?
Yeah, it was really worrisome at first because, I'm like, well, I spent 4 years, 5 years getting a degree in this. I have all this internship experience. Like, this is what I'm responsibly supposed to do. And content creation was just like this Wild West thing on the side that I was, getting really good at, but I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any education. I didn't have really anything. And to this day, I still feel like it's the Wild West, and I don't always know exactly what I'm doing. I've figured it out a lot more now than back then.
There's no formula really.
Right. And so it just felt, nerve-wracking, especially with big bills in like the impending future, to jump into this. But it felt like something that was more fulfilling to me, more creative to me. I had more control over how my time was spent. And so it was really intriguing.
That's so sweet. So what kind of opportunities started to open up after you committed to this path?
Yeah, I committed to it, and it was honestly harder for my wife than it was for me. Because, we're raising a young family, and I'm, like leaving my degree and my full-time job and all this experience. And it was things that she had also sacrificed for, right? We'd been married for a few years at this point, and she, really participated in helping me build to what I had already built.
Mm.
And so for her to be asked to be on the same page of leaving all that behind and going to this new opportunity was challenging. And the opportunities that came were really just me going out and pounding the pavement and approaching brands and saying, hey, here's a case study of what I've already done for X brand. Let's see if we can't create something for you as well. And it was crazy. This is where I really feel like luck came into the situation. I had like 2 or 3 brands in a row that I approached, and I had like a 100% close rate where I'm like, holy cow, I got all these brands signed up, and I was able to execute really successfully on all of them. And it just opened my mind to like, I can really make this happen.
That's so sweet, man. I want to go back to what you said about, your wife and her feelings about it, because if I'm doing the math right, when you made this big pivot, you would have been like late 20s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been like 26, 27, I think.
26, 27. Done with school, already in the career. And I think it's a lot trickier to get into something new when you're a father, when you're married.
Yeah.
All these things, because now all of a sudden you have this responsibility and all these people that are counting on you and depending on you. But so many people who are, making a change in their life or doing something new are in a similar spot. So what advice or recommendations do you have for people who know they need to change, but feel like, I got a family, I don't know how to do it?
Whew. That's a good question. I think I was really lucky to have saved up somewhat of a emergency fund, like financial safety net for myself prior to making this move, because I always cared about saving money and like not spending it on stuff that wasn't furthering my goals that I had for like a longer term horizon. So I knocked doors in college and was lucky and wise enough to like set aside money from that helped pay for our adoptions and helped ease this transition between like what I thought was going to be my full-time career and what I decided to do. The other thing I'd say is just realize that your responsibilities are always going to get bigger in the future, it seems like, up to a certain point, I guess. And you'll always look back at the time that you're in right now and be like, man, I had it so easy. Even though it feels like completely crushing and overwhelming right now. And so I don't know if there's a better time to do it than to just jump.
Just do it now.
Yeah.
Just send it.
Right.
The biker mentality.
Biker mentality.
That's so awesome, man. So once you landed some of these deals and some of these brands, what then started? Well, what were the deals that you landed?
Yeah, I mean, I was creating content for other companies, and it wasn't necessarily even my own channel that like was an asset being used in this equation, right? I'm just using my skill set that I gathered from building my own content, right? So I have my own channel. It only has 20,000, maybe 30,000 followers at this point. And, but I'm learning so much about how the algorithm works, about making value for the viewers. And I realized like, okay, I can apply that to this company, to this company, to this company, and all of their pages are now growing too. But my page is simultaneously growing. And so I start to land partnerships with my personal page at the same time, where I'm, getting to ride for bike companies that I, always looked up to growing up. I'm getting to partner with like Red Bull and get sent to events. I did an early partnership with National Geographic back in like 2021, 2022.
I remember that one.
And so I don't know, it was eye-opening for me to have big brands knocking on the door saying, hey, we like what you're doing. Come do a campaign with Honda, come do, these other things. And I never thought I was going to be working with Honda and like doing stuff like that. And, 2026, I'm partnered with Subaru. So it's like, holy cow, it can keep getting better and better.
That's so awesome, man.
Yeah.
All these cool brands coming in. What's like the biggest change in your family's life or personal life from today from where you were when you first pivoted? Shout out pivot.
Yeah. I think the biggest benefit has been the ability to be flexible with my time. And I've gotten to, do a lot of out of country trips and out of state trips. And we built a van to like travel in as a family that we have spent, hundreds of nights in because I can work from the passenger seat. My wife, bless her heart, is our, like full-time driver when we're out on these trips, and I get to be passenger princess and just work from wherever. And so it allows me to spend a lot more time doing fun activities with my kids and just getting to go fun places. And I think if I were still doing 9 to 5, I wouldn't have experienced their childhood quite the same way. So I think that's been the biggest change.
That's so cool. Makes me feel like that old saying, God closes a door and opens another door, or something like that.
Gotta agree.
Do you feel like God's hand was in it to get you to a better point?
100%. Yeah. I think, I don't know. I've always felt just blessed and grateful that, like I was given a lot of helpful pieces of the puzzle before I was even born. And, that's not something that everybody gets. And so I just try to be thankful for that and try to help other people along the way as well, because, not everybody has that. And hopefully we can buoy each other up.
I love that. I love the spiritual aspect you just took. Before you were born, there were some pieces of the puzzle. So
Yeah.
Tell me about what that means for you.
Yeah, just, my mom and dad have been huge in shaping who I have been able to, grow into, and giving me expectations about work ethic and how to approach school and just like trying to work hard and things like that. And yeah, for me, my relationship with my dad growing up riding bikes was a really big part of, who I grew into. And my mom really working with me at school, another really big part of who I grew into. And I feel like those two pieces kind of just meshed together and have been so big for me.
Cool. So your parents played such a huge role.
Yep.
It's awesome. Now that you're a father, how are you carrying forth those ideas and what's important to you and teaching your kids?
Yeah. It's funny because, there's these core foundational pieces that just are so cooked in. And then there's your own kids who just need different things than you needed as a kid and like are going up against different challenges than you were as a kid. And so I think a lot of my approach is just default, like passed on from my parents, but a lot of things I'm having to learn about new and like try and come up with creative ways to solve and help my kids. And it's funny because you think like, oh, my parents like knew how to do everything, but you realize as you get older, like, oh, they were a first time parent just like I am right now when they were raising me. So helps you, I think about, I don't know, just like how it was for them, and be a little bit more real with yourself and with your parents of like, yeah, got to cut them some slack.
Oh yeah. I noticed that too when I became a parent. I was like, man, my parents, they were doing this. Like they're
Right.
awesome. Good for them.
It's so funny to me to like think back to like your parents, for example, and be like, man, Rick, when I started like, meeting him, was like my age right now or younger.
I know, it's so weird. Isn't that so weird?
Yeah, it's really odd.
Well, you talk about the idea that your kids need different things maybe than what you needed growing up. And I've noticed that too as I become a father. Like kids come how they are and they come so different. And it's surprising to me. Even my two girls, one's 5 and one's 1, but they're so different in their needs. And I really just think we come with our own gifts that to me are spiritual. They're from beyond. And I think about you as a kid. I'm grateful that I got to know you because I feel like your gifts were so present even from when you were young. And I have a lot of ideas about what I think your gifts are, but I want to know, what did you recognize like within yourself from such a young age that were those natural gifts that you came with?
Hmm. I don't feel like I ever really belonged to a certain group. Like I wasn't part of the like sports kids at school. I wasn't part of the, like band class or like the choir. I was just like kind of out on my own riding my bike. And so I think it gave me the ability to just like kind of accept everybody. And I don't know if you would agree with that, but I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like I wasn't really part of a group. I was just like accepting of everyone, hopefully. So I think that was probably that's probably the thing that stands out to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think back in the day, biking was a little bit more, I don't want to say obscure,
Just niche,
but
for
like not
sure.
developed yet.
Yeah.
Like the industry and because now, in the summertime, I go outside and there's 10,000 kids riding their bikes on the trails. A lot of them that you helped build, and they have school biking teams and all this.
Hundreds of
But
kids on the school bike.
oh
It's
yeah, which I
crazy.
think is really cool, and it kind of gives a place for kids who are really into that sport to come together and be together. But I feel like you were kind of trailblazing, building all that community, and you've kind of still, with the work you're doing, are playing in a big part in spreading this cool thing you've always been passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big advocate of the community coming together, from just like inviting people to
Mhm.
come hang out at my house to, volunteer. I was like a volunteer city council member pushing for a skate park. And that's why they ended up sanctioning the bike park and like helping build it out more. And now I have a fun like side project where I own a bike park building company.
Oh,
And so I got to build the city of Eagle Mountains bike park. This last year I got to build the city of Harriman's bike park. And right now it's in the works that I'm likely going to be helping build the Cedar City bike park as well. And I just care a lot about people getting to experience, the fun and the freedom and the creativity and the community that comes with riding bikes. And I think building the terrain is part of creating that for them.
that's the shovel.
Yep.
That so inspires you.
Exactly.
That's so cool, man. I had no idea you were doing that too.
Yeah, I don't talk about it a ton every now and then on social media because it's just fun to talk about, new spots that are popping up. But hopefully I can do more of that in the future.
That's so sweet. I mean, you really see the threads that kind of, weave your life together in the way that you serve. One thing I always talk to people about is that Japanese idea, ikigai. Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah. It's they talk about it in engineering a lot, actually.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I feel like you've nailed that idea. And the way that I've understood it, maybe it's different than what they say in engineering, but it's like you have your gifts, you have what you're naturally good at, and you're naturally good at so many things. Like you're good at tinkering with things, you're good at, physics, and you're good at athletically, and you're good with people. So you have all these gifts. Then you have this passion, and your passion is all about bikes, creating around bikes, and this thrill. But then the really core piece is the people who you serve with your gifts. And I didn't really think about this until we started talking, but man, you're serving so many people by bringing together this community in this perfect synergy. You've nailed it, man. It's
I
so
feel like I'm
cool.
still trying to figure it out, but I appreciate from the outside, it looks like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And even if you don't know, like you've been honest enough with yourself and passionate enough to continue to do something, even when it's, the path isn't always known before you. So it's actually like a really deep, meaningful thing. I don't know if you see it that way, but that's how I see it.
No, I mean, it's funny. Like you think about the bike park building project, that's just this side project right now. But when you talk about it this way, it's like, wow, I really am like pretty well cut out to do this. Like I went to school for a manufacturing engineering degree. And I spent all of my childhood like building stuff like this. And I ride bikes and like get to market that and find companies who will support it. Like, is there another person who can get a corporate grant from Maverick Adventures First Stop and Facebook and like use that money to design and build a bike park. I don't know. Like, I guess it is a pretty niche thing that I've somehow found my way into.
Yeah, man, you've been chosen is the way I see it. You're chosen, and because you're pulling all those things together and building this community, you get to have this impact on blessing the lives of, I mean, probably thousands, tens of thousands of, kids and teenagers and, people who are looking for a place to call home the way that you were able to build that community in your backyard. So, man, that's amazing. I have the chills about it, to be honest with you. Way to
It's
go,
fun,
man.
Yeah. Biking in the community is a great thing.
It's freaking amazing. So I want to ask you a little bit too about this idea of social media.
Yep.
Because there's so many people out there who have a talent, have a skill, have knowledge. And I think social media is such a cool way to get that out there and make a change in the world. So what's some of your advice? Because I know now you're teaching people how to grow on social media. What advice do you have for people who feel like they have something they want to share but don't know how to do it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get hung up on the idea of I need to be like world class, top percentile at whatever this craft is that they like doing. For me, riding a bike. And the reality is that the skill level of my biking matters much less than my work ethic with respect to creating content. And so, if your thing is, I don't know, painting, you don't have to be a world-class painter to have a very successful social media presence. Really, it comes down to, I think, understanding what your audience is looking for or in need of and finding ways to give to them. So I think serving your audience is the most important part. And for me, that looks like, I know a lot of people that follow me are interested in mountain biking. And so I have coached a lot of people with respect to how to ride their bikes safely. And I can take that knowledge and share it on my social media. And I say, like, hey, here's 3 tips for doing your first 360 on your mountain bike. Here's 3 tips for not getting bucked over your handlebars when you jump. And so like educational resources, that's a way to serve your audience. Entertainment is another big way to serve your audience. There's a lot of riders out there who are significantly more skilled than I am. But if I can show up to a spot or a jump that they've hit before and break it down in a way that's more approachable or talk about it in some other, way that isn't just hitting it on my bike, it's more entertaining for people. It's more relatable for people. And I think that is a really good way to serve them. So entertainment, education, and then inspiration is like the third main pillar, I think, of serving your audience, inspiring them to do things by, showing them what's possible, showing them, something that you haven't done before that took courage to overcome and hit on your bike would be, how it relates to me. I think those ways of serving your audience are the most important things to do rather than worry about how skilled I am at the activity itself.
Huge advice, man. Yeah, because I think people do feel really limited that like, oh, I'm not good enough at whatever it is. People are going to laugh at me or make fun of me.
And it'll be hard and like feel awkward at first, but as you just make more videos and really develop that consistency that you and I were talking about, that makes the biggest difference.
Cool.
Yeah, you start to just get over it, start to not care. It starts to become more about how can I help these people who are watching than like how comfortable and like cool do I feel.
You're educating people, entertaining, and inspiring. And what cool interactions have come from that perspective?
Honestly, a lot of the brand deals that I do are because of that approach. Like I said, I'm not a top tier rider. I don't even compete. I don't do any competitions, but I have been able to partner with brands because my content is multifaceted and deeper than just look at me on my bike. And so, a brand like Cannondale, who I represent right now, they really appreciate somebody who can talk about their bikes and like show them doing creative things and be an approachable part of the community versus, somebody who's just a god on a bike that shreds and is kind of untouchable, unapproachable. There's plenty of athletes that are really good that you just don't really connect with. And so I think my content being more entertaining, educational, inspiring is helpful in that regard. And it allows me to work with companies who are like, hey, we want you to talk about this and that. And I'm like, I can do that because I don't have to just shred my bike for my content to do well. Like I can talk and just like be more of myself.
Cool. Well, I love it because the videos that you post, it makes me feel I'm not a good rider necessarily. I like to ride, but I'm very amateur. But I see you go down these cool rocks and jumps, and I start thinking, maybe I could do that.
That's the hope, man. I want to inspire people to get out there and find new stuff and try new stuff. And it's fun to interact with the community because you hear, kids on YouTube will be like, oh, you're my favorite rider. And I'm like, how? Like, I'm not even that good. But it has to be for a different reason.
Cool. Well, you are good. You're sandbagging.
Right. I'm sandbagging a little bit. I'm definitely above average. I'm not competition level or even close, okay. Right? Yeah, so, I mean, I'm lucky that I can rely on my riding skill to carry some of the weight.
Sure.
And I don't know if the brands would want to partner with me if I had, significantly less skill. So there is some skill there, but I like to think that I rely more on my content strategy than I do on my riding skill.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's
Which will
awesome.
hopefully help me like long term because I don't have to be hugging myself and just like getting broke off in order to reach my audience.
Sure. Yeah, you can do it into your 40s without broken bones.
I better be doing it into my 50s and 60s, man. Yeah, like I was saying, my best friend that I met while I was, 8 years old and he was 16, 17. He's 42 now and we are still riding at like a pretty high level, pushing ourselves, learning new stuff all the time. So I'm like, yeah, it's going to be me when I'm 42 and he's going to be, 50 and we're going to be getting after it.
A whole life on the bike, man.
I hope so.
And I feel like biking, I feel like is like the new skiing, where people used to ski, probably still do, late into life, 60s, 70s, and people are on their bikes now later and later and later. It's cool.
They sure are. Yep.
It's a whole lifestyle.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so much more than just something you do when you're young, but
Sure.
It's not uncommon to see older guys and girls just shredding it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents, my mom never rode when you and I were, living in the same neighborhood. She was always like inside, biting her fingernails, hoping that she wasn't, going to take a kid to the ER.
How could you not?
And so yeah, now she's freaking like level 3 high school coach.
Oh, really?
Teaches spin class at the local rec center. Is riding, 100 miles a week sometimes. Really funny to see. Because, now my parents are in their 50s and I want that to be me.
So your mom, she kind of found her passion for biking later in life, huh?
Yeah. And
by osmosis.
She talks about how much of an improvement it's made to her life.
Cool.
Because, she deals with anxiety and I think riding that much and just getting your endorphins flowing and being active and drinking so much more water because you're, thirsty from riding has all been so helpful for her anxiety. And she, now she's the mom who like on the trip is jumping off the cliffs in Hawaii and stuff because I don't know, she's just found her love of being active through biking.
That's so great to hear. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about health as being this combination of mind, body, spirit. And biking pretty much hits all of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really does. So what else have you noticed about your own life and health as a result of this biking lifestyle?
I mean, aside from the reconstructive surgeries and, the concussions.
Tell us about a few of them that you've
had. I'd say the worst thing that I've had happen is I started dislocating my shoulder pretty early on, like when I was probably 8 or 9. And I dislocated it 5 times over the course of 10 or 15 years. And what I didn't realize is that I had lost I'd had bony loss to my glenoid, which is like the socket that your humeral head goes into for your shoulder to just like stay in place.
Mm.
And so I finally went to a doctor who like did some scanning on it and was like, hey, you are going to just keep dislocating and dealing with this more and more and worse because you're having bony loss there. Let's go in and do a graft. So they cut part of my collarbone off and they screwed it in to rebuild that front edge of my glenoid so that my humeral head doesn't slide out, dislocate so much. And that was a big recovery. I was off the bike for like 6 months, 7 months. That's the longest break I've taken, since like, besides being, out of country for 2 years. And so it was pretty tough to come back to and like be so stiff and sore. And even to this day, that was back in 2020 that I'd had the big surgery done. Even to this day, I still am, 3 times a week doing PT exercises, trying to just feel whole. And I'm going to have to just keep working at it.
Yeah. I guess when you ride at that level, you're bound to have something happen, right?
Right. Yeah. You're moving fast. You're falling from high cliffs and it's not nice when you hit the ground. That's why you got to be, in the gym lifting weights, is because when I hit the ground, I want to have a fighting chance. I don't want to just get nuked.
Oh, okay. So a lot of biker guys now are also focused on weightlifting, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Bone density, having some muscle on you to just like protect you and keep you in one piece.
Huh. Oh, it makes sense.
I mean, I'm still skinny as, so I just need to eat more and keep doing it.
You've always been a bit of a slim fellow.
Yep.
Awesome,
I just try as hard as I can. Not as hard as I can, but I actually try to like put on weight, and that's my blessing / curse. Is it's hard.
It's probably because you're just burning too many calories to keep it on, right?
Probably, yeah.
Going too hard. So what else about your health has been good because of riding?
I'd say my mental health is benefiting a lot from riding because I have something that's so fulfilling to me and that keeps me active. So I'm just having endorphins and, good feel goods. And I have a really good social scene, I think, because of it. A lot of my friends that I grew up riding with in my backyard. I talked about my buddy that's a bit older than me. 2 of my other closest friends are kids that I grew up with in the backyard. And so you kind of just keep this tight-knit group. And I think biking has blessed my mental health in that way a lot.
That's so sweet. Yeah. A great community. Keep the endorphins going.
Yep.
Fantastic, man. What advice do you have for people who would like to get into biking, but have never done it?
Ooh. You don't need the nicest bike. I don't have to worry about that. I mean, if you are looking for a bike, like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, KSL, you can find some really solid bikes that are a few years old for half price or less. Really good spot to start. And find a Facebook group of people who are all into it, and you can just post on there and say like, hey, I'm pretty entry level, but I want to go out and find some of my local trails. Is anybody else doing the same thing, or does anybody else want to show us around? And you can find people who are pretty willing to just share and show you the ropes. I think that's a great place to start.
Do you have any of those groups that you run or manage?
I would say the Mountain Bike Enthusiast of Utah page is pretty good for Utah. There's a lot of people that are active in there just talking about it, talking about what's rideable right now, what's got snow on it, what's not. And that's probably a good spot to start.
Cool. I think some of the more stuff that I'm personally really, really interested in is knowing how you were able to scale to where you are. Because so many people will just get stuck in, beginner land and feel like they're not hitting the right way. And you've obviously been building and scaling for a long time. But, walk through, if people really are passionate, how do you start to get there? People get stuck, in just the first couple months and they feel like they can't break through or don't see a path forward. So what advice do you have for people?
I think I talked about those content pillars of education, entertainment, inspiration. That kind of helps you develop a content strategy where you're not just thinking about each post on a one by one basis. You're able to strategize different like lanes of content, right? So like educational wise, if my passion is guitar playing, I can think of 5, 6 things right off the top of my mind that would be helpful for someone to learn if they were playing the guitar.
Mm.
And so that immediately opens up 6, 7 different video ideas that I could share with people to help them in the educational sphere. In the entertainment sphere, I could look at different trends that are going on globally that maybe are in the knitting community or in the, car community. I can find ways to liken those trends to guitar playing and come up with some funny skits or whatever it may be that's entertaining to people. I could, in the inspiration route, you could, share some stories about some of your favorite guitar solos of all time. I don't know. I'm just like kind of spitballing for a guitar themed channel. And if you can come up with these videos in groups instead of a one by one basis, it's way more optimized and efficient instead of like having to put your whole brain power behind each video one by one. So I think those content pillars are really helpful for doing more work with less brain power. And that's gonna be the biggest part is like you just have to put out a certain volume of content and just get consistent with it. Sometimes the hard part is knowing what that content should be. And so I think batching the ideas, depending on which content pillar you're building within, is a really helpful way to just like get started in mass instead of thinking about each video and overthinking each video. It's just like, just serve your audience and do it within one of these 3 lanes.
That's brilliant. Truly brilliant. Which, type of video do you find is the most important, or are they all equally important?
I lean way less on inspiration than I do on like education and entertainment. I feel like inspiration sometimes feels more like the vanity posts where you're like, look at how cool this is, which sometimes is, great. Like there's space for it for sure. But I lean more into education and entertainment because I know that that's going to be helpful or funny for someone to watch.
Okay, that's cool.
And the more you can blend those 3 categories together, I think the better a piece of content comes. For example, the video you're saying where I, went out and found that spot and like jumped over the fence. The educational part of it is that like, oh, you can like look at stuff in your local area and find fun things to ride without having to go to a skate park or a bike park or the local trail system. The entertaining part is, it was filmed as a skit, and the idea of, displaying the Instagram imagination versus reality.
Yeah, it was funny.
Gives it a funny, comical twist. And then the inspiration is like, there are actually clips in that video of me like doing a fun trick, getting big air in my imagination of this spot. And that's probably inspiring for some of the riders to be like, oh, cool. Like he actually jumped that. I know where that's at. And, did this trick over it. And so it kind of takes pieces from entertainment, education, and inspiration and kind of melds them together. And that makes it more valuable. And that's why, right now, I don't know, 30 hours after I posted it, it's almost at 500,000 views between the different platforms.
Crazy, man. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. 500,000.
Right. Pretty fun.
So awesome.
Yeah, I think so. That's like with respect to channel building or content creation. With respect to like actually making an income out of it, I think more and more brands are starting to realize the power of micro creators, or like nano creators. Somebody who's like 1,000 followers or less, and that they're more approachable. They are sharing more authentic experiences that aren't so curated for like a big audience. And if you can at least create some content that is performing well and point to that as a case study and take it to a brand and say, hey, I have this fun idea. Here's the idea. And I've already built content like this that performed well on my channel. Check it out. You're going to get, you're going to have to work to find the brand who will say yes. You may have to send out a few pitches, but once you can get some type of brand deal like that and create a video on behalf of a brand and have it perform decently or hopefully well, then you take it to the next brand and you
Cool.
say, hey, check out what I did for this brand. I have this fun idea about your product. Then you start to just build this collection of case studies and bandwagon all these people into getting into, partnerships with you.
Brilliant.
So
did you find when you were getting started, did you kind of target things that you thought were cool to go pitch? Like, did you like a particular bike? And so you went and pitched that company, or a particular wheel, or how did you go about it?
Yeah, I think I looked for the most organic opportunities possible, right? I think at the time I was working for the carbon fiber wheel company, Envy, up in Ogden, Utah. And I had done, an engineering internship for them. And so I'm like, hey, this is like, I'm already pretty acquainted with the company. I already know a lot of people therein. Why don't I hit them up and say, give me some product in exchange for some videos that I'm going to make? And that was my most, low cost of entry, most organic way to like kind of get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And once you've done that for, one company, whether it was paid or not, if you're getting product or actual, cash compensation, it's still a case study. You can still say, look what I did for this brand.
Yeah, totally. And you got some sweet stuff out of it.
Yeah, I got some sweet stuff. And, it's evolved from there to be, not just a source of product support, but like a source of income to provide for my family.
Yeah, fantastic. How long, at what point in your journey did you feel like you crossed a threshold where you're like, okay, this is a real business for me now?
There was a couple. My first year doing content creation for companies, like being a consultant / content creator where my personal channel wasn't involved, I was able to double my salary that I did as an engineer.
Huge, man.
In my first year. And I was like, holy cow. So that was one like really pivotal moment and like realization for me. The other pivotal moment, I think, was when I was doing, 2x or 3x my engineering salary just from my personal channel.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like, I could quit all the other side hustles of bike park building, consulting, channel, or, content creation and channel management and just do my own personal channel. And I could still like make a living from it. So that was a really cool realization and moment as well. But I'm still unfortunately just doing all the different things and being involved with everything.
Kind of a big flywheel of just stuff that you're passionate about though.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
Which is why it's hard to give up and, just focus on one thing. It's just like, I got all these things that I could do that are all fulfilling and fun.
They kind of all feed each other and
I think so.
Work together in a cool way.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. What were some of the challenges you faced that could have set you back, but you kept going?
I think the biggest challenge was just committing to starting because, I had lost my job and I continued to fill out job applications for an engineering position for months. Because I lost my job in like a November, December area. And I didn't really like pick up my first clientele until March, April, when I decided like this job application thing is just taking too long. I'm going to just dive like headfirst into, I'm going to land, 3 more clients to do this channel management stuff on the side. And so I think if I hadn't had that commitment to it and really, like props to my wife for being willing to entertain that, because I was like, hey, are you okay with me just like really attacking this opportunity that I'm imagining and actually trying to make it work? And she's like, yeah, like let's, try it out and see what actually happens. And if I hadn't had that opportunity and full commitment to it, I don't think it would have turned out how it needed to.
Yeah. Something you have to go all in on.
Yeah.
And make sure that nothing sets you back.
Right.
You had to burn the boats on the way.
Yeah. And it's scary to think back to now and be like, probably couldn't get hired as maybe.
Maybe.
But I don't know. I found something that's way more fulfilling and more flexible and that I can clearly make, just as much money doing. So it's viable.
Totally. What was one of your first posts that you did that really popped off that was significant to you?
Been so long now to think back to like 2019 when I started really trying to post content. And I remember to this day looking at a video and being like, oh my gosh, it got 1,000. That's so good. And I don't know. I think when I started to get collaborative posts with PinkBike, who is like the biggest source of news in the mountain bike industry world, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll repost your video on our channel, or we'll, be a collaborator, like a co-author on this piece of content that you post." I think that was a big pat on the back. And yeah, I'd say that.
Do you remember what those videos were about? Those first ones that caught their attention?
Those ones were before I really entered my creator era, and I was more relying on like biking skill. So those ones were like riding my bike backwards through a parking lot and like hopping 360s. I did like a hop 360, continued riding backwards, hopped another 360 and continued riding backwards. And then like a third one. And then there's also one where I was doing a manual down the staircases at the south end of BYU that did a lot of viewership. Yeah.
That's crazy you did that.
Yeah, way funny.
That's so awesome.
I think my creator era was kind of birthed partially by being a dad, because I started to make more content that had my kids in it. And actually to this day, my highest viewed video of all time, I think it's 56 million views, is me and my son riding on my mountain bike together with him on like this little, passenger style seat on the front, little Mac ride seat. And just like we did a Father's Day campaign for C's Candies, the like little chocolate boxes. And we had this outtake where we're riding down the hill with the box of chocolates and he's laughing. We hit a bump and all of a sudden the chocolates just explode everywhere and fly out of frame. And he's just laughing. And even though it was an outtake, C's was like super pumped on it, 50 million views.
Wow.
That's maybe the most like memorable single piece of content that I've done.
That's so cool. And it kind of happened by accident.
Right.
Oh my gosh, dude. 50 million.
Yeah. Crazy, huh?
Huge. Did that spring more opportunities?
I think
like
so.
That video.
I mean, it just sprang another case study, right? Of like, hey, check out how much volume of viewership my channel is doing. Are you interested in partnering? Yeah.
And you just keep rolling,
keep accumulating, and keep, building it up and putting the case studies together and sending them out. And it's a hustle, right? Like you have to constantly, that's the part that my wife really doesn't like, is that she's like, you don't just like have a job that's going to give you work. Like you have to go out and like kill your prey every single time to like put dinner on our table. And so that was nerve-wracking for her. And I think that over time, as I was just proving for longer and longer that I could do this, she started to come around to trusting it more and feeling more comfortable in the idea of me being self-employed. Because she's like, oh, well, these, all these jobs that you could have in like a W-2 setting are more secure. And that's how it seemed to her until a few years had passed of me doing my own thing. And her best friend's husband got laid off from his secure job. And then her other friend's husband got laid off. And then, all of her friends' husbands are losing their jobs. And I'm like, I'm not going to lay me off. Like I'm going to go out and I'm just going to keep grinding and doing my best to provide. And I trust myself more than I trust a company who's employing me.
Totally.
So
I think it's kind of a myth that there's a safer route to go. And that's something that I share with people a lot, that working a job is not safer, because, man, so much happens. Companies go under, economics change.
Yeah.
And this is actually some information that I got from watching Warren Buffett. People say, what do you do to survive recessions? What do you do to survive down economies? They said, you just have to be the very best at who you are. Be the best at who you are and what you do, and you'll find a way to find work. You know, and you could have been the best engineer in the world. And you could probably be the best engineer you could be, and you would have been amazing. But you have these other gifts that are so much more, I guess, unique than just being an engineer. And if you rely on those, I mean, you'll never go out of business because it's something that you are one of the best in the world at, right? As in terms of biking
Maybe.
and content creation, like you actually are. I know you're humble, but you actually are.
Yeah,
You're a master of your category.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. You know, there's areas where you're probably feeling safer but are less valuable. And then there's areas where like you're more cut out for it and it seems more niche, but if you fight to find a way, you're going to build something that's like uniquely yours and capable of more meaningful things to you personally than someone else's job that they're employing you in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I love that you got to live that firsthand, you know, this unknown of, you know, what am I going to do with my life? I got let off.
Right. What am I going to do 5 years from now, man? Like, am I still going to be in a place where I can keep doing this? But I've learned, you know, some really valuable things along the way that I think are going to guide me and give me the skill set that I need to figure it out when the time comes.
Yeah.
Like I'm already trying. Set the puzzle or, you know, set the pieces in the right order to think forward to what has to be next.
And what is next? What's your bigger vision for where you're going from here?
I'd really like to get more into consulting because, you know, I've worked with a lot of smaller brands and helped them have just astounding reach and viewership for what size of company and what size of following they are. You know, like I think almost every one of my clients this year did over 25 million views for the year.
Wow.
And they all have, you know, 25,000 followers or less. And so the like viewership to following ratio is very high. So I'd like to move into consulting with bigger brands because I'm generating more viewership than they are with small brands.
Cool.
And I think the right strategies applied to bigger brands could do some really cool things.
Cool. Do you see yourself staying kind of in the biking niche, or do you want to do stuff for other types of brands too?
I have stayed pretty squarely in the outdoor recreation niche, but I've definitely strayed from biking already. I've done work with like overland vehicle companies, camping style stores. One of my clients who's like really crushing it right now is a van building company who's out of Colorado and does, you know, van builds and custom, you know, Ford Transits and stuff like that. So I definitely feel capable in spheres outside of biking directly, and like outdoor rec, I already have a lot of case studies within, but you know, maybe I go work for a makeup company or something. I think I could find ways to apply the same strategies in whatever it may be.
Cool. But the content creation has become just like an act of art and passion and love just for the sake of it being content creation for you.
Yeah. And I think, you know, human attention is pretty uniform across different genres of, you know, interests. And so if you can do the same things, you know, entertain, educate, and inspire people, doesn't matter what the subject matter is, I think there's going to be a way to deliver something of value to the viewer.
Sure. Huge. I mean, and what a different perspective to have. It makes people feel like they can do anything they want to do.
Yeah.
If they're interested in it.
Right. It used to be like, oh, what's the biggest jump that I need to hit to get views? And now it's evolved into something so much more strategic and like universal than just biking specifically.
Cool. What's your process like? Do you have to, you know, write your scripts and then go film them, or how do you structure things in your mind when you're creating something new?
I tend to do it two ways. Sometimes I know the script in advance, where I think of the concept of the video, I think about the talking points that I want to hit on, and then I go and film specific clips that will fulfill those. But that's significantly less common than just having a big batch of video clips on my phone that are pertinent to the concept that I want to create the video about.
Mm.
And then I'll open up a file in my video editor, which I'm just using CapCut, which is like an iOS on my, handheld device app. And I'll go in and write up the script of what I want the video to say, because I do a lot of voiceovers for these videos. And once I've got the script written out, I'll record the voiceover, and then I'll start pulling clips in from my phone's hard drive and just setting them on the timeline in what I feel like is the right order to illustrate the story that I'm telling through the voiceover. And that's really nice because you don't have to like film each clip and speak in each clip and like, have this really specialized video that isn't useful for other videos. Instead, I have, this batch of 50 clips that I'm choosing from for the video that I could use in 3 different video concepts that are kind of similar, but can make better use of it across multiple pieces of content that I make down the line.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. And you're always going to cool locations. So it makes sense that while you're in Moab or something, you want to get as much cool shots you can use down the line.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Yep.
And you end up, do you use a lot of fancy cameras, or you shoot most on your iPhone? Or?
I shoot 95% of my content on my iPhone. I have a DSLR, like the nice ones you've got here, that pretty much hangs out in my office and is there for like Zoom calls. And I used it to record my online course, but I don't use it for my day-to-day content almost at all. The only other thing I use is like my 360 cameras and my like action cameras that I, film some of my POV content with. But like your iPhone is incredibly capable for building an audience.
I love that because I think a lot of people think there's like a huge barrier to entry to get something up and going. But I mean, here you are, this super successful content creator, and 95% is on your phone.
Yep.
So there's no excuses.
No excuses. I'm filming it, I'm editing it, I'm posting it all from my handheld device.
And you built a life like from your phone in a way.
Honestly, it's crazy to think about.
That's awesome. So when you're driving, your wife's driving your guys' cool van together, you're just editing on your phone.
I'm just sitting there on my phone, which drives my wife nuts a lot of the time, which understandably, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting there, maybe reclined on the couch or in my office or, just standing around looking at my phone all day. And she's like, you working? Understandably, right?
Yeah. But that's like the best use of this incredible tool that we have.
Yeah. It's also a huge hindrance, because I work in social media, and social media is so precisely tuned to steal your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to stay on it and stay focused and like remember exactly what you're doing and what you opened this DM for. And when there's 100 posts scrolling by that are all just like so nicely tuned to steal your attention.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
No kidding. How do you stay focused? What are your tips?
I've tried a bunch of different things, and I'm still trying to figure that out. It's evolved from, sometimes I'm using an app that is called Motion that allows you to input your tasks, assign a time frame that it should take, a due date, a priority level, and it will use, some type of automation to stack your calendar for you, depending on what's coming up and what's due and what needs to be worked on. And that was really helpful for me for a while. I've also really enjoyed just like buying whiteboards for my office and like manually writing down what my task list is in the order that I think it needs to be done in. But like I said, I feel like my brain changes over time, and what tool I want to use changes over time. And I think the important part is just trying to keep all of the things that I need to get done in a list somewhere and do my best to prioritize it. And sometimes I'll set timers on my phone because it's, up here in the little dock at the very top and is like staring me in the face, so that if I get distracted on some Instagram post, the timer's there ticking, and I'd be like, oh yeah, gotta go do whatever the top thing on my whiteboard is. I got it.
I think it's interesting because you're like so uniquely a creative, but you're also so uniquely like an engineer mindset,
Yeah.
you know, and like I know your brain's always moving.
Right.
So it's interesting to hear how you find what works for you. And I think everyone's got to find their own flow.
Right.
To whatever kind of work you're doing, but especially if it's some kind of creative thing. And no two minds really work the same way. So it's fun to know what your processes are and how you get it done.
Yeah, man. If you got advice for
I don't.
staying on top of a task list while dealing with all these posts that are so catchy, let me know.
I have no advice for you. I think you're doing it because you're cranking out cool stuff all the time. And
thanks.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, I constantly feel like, am I just like wasting a ton of time by consuming content on social media? But, there's an important part of it too, that like I have to stay up to date on like what are the trends that are happening? What inspiration can I take from what other people are posting online right now? But it's definitely a slippery slope.
It is.
You have to allocate the time properly so that you don't just get lost in the sauce.
Yeah, it's like, are you researching or
right? Or are you just scrolling?
Yeah.
Half and half, I guess.
Yeah, when I was in finance, I had to read the Wall Street Journal every day as like part of my knowing what's going on. But scrolling and finding the content that's hitting and what's going on is important.
Market research.
Market research, yeah. There you go. I'm so interested in how you built this lifestyle with your family. It's so cool. And, you've adopted kids and you're growing all this lifestyle. And, how do you see all of that with your family and your job as part of this overall plan for your life? How does it all come together for you? Because it seems meaningful to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important part to me is that, hopefully I'll grow up and my kids will grow up and they'll have warm memories of the things that we did growing up and a relationship with me and, work ethic and like understanding of what they need to do to take care of themselves because of our relationship growing up. And I think as long as I continue to be intentional about the flexibility that this job allows me to have and choose to spend good time with them and preparing for that future when my kids will be grown up and get to make their own decisions. Hopefully I can be in the right spot down there, at that time. And I think as long as I'm thinking about it from an early stage and giving it authentic effort, then hopefully it'll work out.
Cool. So awesome, man. Well, I'm proud to know you. I think it's awesome what you built, and they don't become much cooler than Christian Pepper.
Thank you.
I mean that.
Very nice to hear.
Such a rock star. Well, thanks, man.